John Bindon, born in 1943 in Fulham, London, but around City.
In the gritty, rain-slicked world of 1970s London, the lines between celebrity and crime were dangerously blurry. This was an era where the flash of paparazzi bulbs mingled with the glint of a concealed blade, a time when movie stars and notorious gangsters drank in the same smoky pubs, where royalty partied with villains, and where violence was a common language everyone understood. And standing right in the middle of it all, a colossus of charisma and menace, was one man, John Bindon. On screen, he was the ultimate hard man, an actor whose terrifying roles in films like Get Carter felt chillingly, frighteningly real. Off-screen, he was even more dangerous, a feared gangster with proven ties to the Kray twins, a man who ran brutal protection rackets across West London with an iron fist. He was the genuine article in a world of pretenders. But in 1978, those two worlds, the silver screen and the blood-soaked streets, collided in the most brutal way imaginable. On a dark, cold night outside a Fulham pub, a bloody brawl erupted, leaving a notorious gangster dead with 9 stab wounds. The man left holding the knife was John Bindon. He insisted it was a desperate, frantic act of self-defense against a man hell-bent on killing him. The police, however, were convinced it was a cold-blooded, professional contract killing. The trial that followed would captivate and shock the nation, peeling back the velvet curtain on a dark underbelly of fame, power, and unimaginable violence. Was John Bindon just an actor playing his greatest part? Or was he a cold-hearted killer who finally brought his on-screen persona into the real world for all to see? On a bleak November night in 1978, outside the Ranelagh Yacht Club in Fulham, a violent showdown shattered the evening quiet, leaving a man bleeding to death on the cold gravel. The man holding the bloodied knife wasn't some anonymous street thug. He was John Bindon, a famous actor celebrated for playing Britain's most terrifying screen villains. The man on the ground was a gangster, Johnny Darke, himself a feared name in the London underworld. Bindon's story was that he was forced to fight for his life, a victim of the very criminal element he portrayed so convincingly on film. But the police and the press saw it very differently. To them, the 9 stab wounds looked less like a panicked defense and more like a professional execution. Was this a celebrity defending his life against a vicious attack? Or did Britain's most dangerous actor just get away with murder? To truly understand what went down that night, we have to start at the very beginning. If you love our contents where we bring you deep analysis on true crime, cases the media won't show you, be sure to support this channel by clicking the like and subscribe button, and also share the videos so others can get well informed. Thank you. Now let's dive in. The making of a hard man. John Dennis Arthur Bindon was born in Fulham, West London in 1943. The son of a cab driver and a merchant seaman, he grew up on a working-class housing estate, his character forged in the tough, austere post-war years. This was a world of bomb sites and ration books, where young men learned to be tough because they had to be. From an early age, trouble just seemed to find him, or perhaps he went looking for it. Known for his intimidating build, broad shoulders, and a fiery temper that could erupt without warning, he was in and out of trouble for street fighting and petty theft. This behavior eventually landed him in Borstal, a notoriously harsh youth detention center. Not once, but twice. His path seemed set for a life of crime, a story that wasn't at all uncommon for ambitious young men who felt trapped by their circumstances. But fate, in the unlikely form of acclaimed director Ken Loach, had something else entirely in mind. In 1966, Loach was scouring London for authentic, unpolished faces for his groundbreaking film Poor Cow. He didn't want actors pretending to be tough. He wanted the real thing. He walked into a London pub and saw Bindon, not acting, but just being his intimidating self. In Bindon's swagger and his cold stare, Loach saw the raw, menacing presence he needed for the part of a violent husband. He cast him right there on the spot, launching one of the most improbable acting careers in British film history. Overnight, John Bindon, the Borstal boy from Fulham, was on a movie set. He suddenly had one foot in the glamorous world of cinema, but the other stayed firmly and deliberately planted in the criminal underworld he knew so well. Do you believe our upbringing dictates our future? Can someone truly escape a life they were seemingly born into? Let us know your thoughts down in the comments. The actor and the gangster. Bindon's acting career exploded with a visceral intensity that stunned the industry. He was a natural, his lack of formal training only adding to his raw power. Directors clamored to cast him to play the very characters he grew up with: violent gangsters, tough-as-nails cops, and brutish thugs. He brought an undeniable and terrifying authenticity to the screen. He famously shared the screen with Michael Caine in the iconic 1971 crime film Get Carter, and starred alongside a mesmerized Mick Jagger in performance. He later showed up in cult classics like Quadrophenia and even acted opposite Hollywood royalty like Paul Newman. His on-screen persona was the quintessential hard man, and audiences were simultaneously repulsed and hooked by how utterly real he felt. The cultural commentator Philip Hoare later perfectly summed him up as the archetypal actor-villain, a man who didn't need to act, he just had to be. But for Bindon, this was never an act. Off-screen, he was living the exact life he portrayed. He was deeply and proudly tangled in London's most notorious criminal networks, with known links to the infamous Kray twins and their rivals, the brutal Richardson gang. He wasn't just an associate, he was an active player. He ran his own protection rackets in West London, shaking down pub owners who feared his explosive reputation, and was known to deal drugs in his native Fulham. He was both an actor and an enforcer, a celebrity and a criminal, moving between a film set one day and a back alley deal the next. Soon enough, the line between John Bindon, the actor, and John Bindon, the gangster, didn't just blur, it disappeared completely. He became Biffo Bindon, a man as feared in the pubs of West London as he was celebrated on the big screen. It's a fascinating duality. What other actors can you think of who seemed a little too perfect for their hard man roles? Share your thoughts below, and if you're enjoying this story, give this video a like to help us out. High society and the underworld. Bindon's unique and dangerous status as a celebrity gangster opened doors to a world light years away from the council estates of Fulham. He became a sought-after bodyguard for the rich and famous, a genuine hard man hired to protect global superstars like Ryan and Tatum O'Neal. He was the ultimate accessory for those who wanted to flirt with danger. His most infamous security job was for the rock gods Led Zeppelin during their chaotic 1977 US tour. The tour was a traveling circus fueled by legendary excess, and Bindon, with his appetite for chaos, fit right in. But his time with the band ended in a storm of violence and scandal. After a savage backstage brawl where a member of the concert promoter's staff was brutally beaten, Bindon was arrested for assault. He was promptly fired, with the band's formidable manager Peter Grant later admitting that hiring him was the biggest mistake he ever made. A telling statement from a man who was no stranger to intimidation himself. But Bindon's connections went even higher, reaching into the most exclusive and protected circles of British society. Through his girlfriend, the aristocratic model Vicky Hodge, he was introduced to Princess Margaret. The two met on the sun-drenched Caribbean island of Mustique, the princess's private playground for the global elite. Rumors of a romance flew instantly, with Bindon himself bragging to anyone who would listen about an affair and sharing scandalous details. Although Buckingham Palace and the princess later denied they'd ever even met, the whispers didn't stop. The alleged connection was so explosive that a wild, unproven theory suggested the infamous 1971 Baker Street bank robbery was secretly an MI5 operation to retrieve compromising photos of the pair from a bank vault. While there's no solid evidence to support this claim, the story alone cemented Bindon's mythical reputation, a man who could walk with gangsters and, supposedly, with royalty. What do you think about the bizarre story linking a gangster, a princess, and a Secret Service bank heist? Could there be a grain of truth to it? Before we move on to the night that changed everything, make sure you're subscribed and have hit that notification bell. The night of the stabbing. On that fateful, bitter night in November 1978, all of Bindon's separate worlds came crashing together in a storm of violence. He was at the Ranelagh Yacht Club, a modest Fulham drinking spot, when he came face-to-face with Johnny Darke. Darke was a well-known gangster from South London, the hot-headed leader of a crew called the Wild Bunch, and had a reputation for being dangerously unpredictable and violent. This wasn't a man you crossed lightly. Stories about what started the fight vary wildly, clouded by alcohol and conflicting allegiances. Some witnesses say it was over a spilled drink, followed by an arrogant headbutt from Bindon. Others claim Darke was the aggressor, that he was trying to extort money from Bindon and pulled a knife on one of his friends. Whatever the spark was, it ignited a powder keg. The fight quickly spilled out of the warm pub and into the cold, dark gravel car park. The brawl that followed was fast, chaotic, and brutal. Bindon would later claim he saw the glint of a knife in Darke's hand and believed he was literally fighting for his life. In that moment of terror, he pulled a 6-inch commando dagger he kept tucked in his boot. When the chaos subsided, Johnny Darke was on the ground, silenced forever. He had 9 fatal stab wounds to his chest, ribs, and abdomen. But Bindon was also badly hurt, with deep slash wounds across his own body that told a story of a ferocious struggle. Staggering back into the club, bleeding heavily, he reportedly told the shocked barman, "Call an ambulance, not the police." Knowing he would be the prime suspect, he refused to go to a hospital. Instead, he fled into the night, first to a friend's flat where his deep wounds were crudely stitched up with fishing line, a testament to his underworld connections. He was then whisked away on a private plane to Dublin to hide out. A month later, after partially recovering, John Bindon flew back to London, surrendered to Scotland Yard, and prepared to stand trial for murder. This is where the story splits. Do you think this sounds like a cold-blooded hit or a desperate fight for survival? Let us know in the comments which side you're leaning towards. The trial at the Old Bailey. In November 1979, John Bindon's trial for the murder of Johnny Darke began at the Old Bailey, and it was a complete media circus. The press and public were obsessed. The prosecution painted a picture of a calculated, professional hit. They argued this wasn't just a spontaneous pub brawl, but a contract killing, alleging Bindon had been paid thousands of pounds by a rival firm to get rid of Darke, possibly because Darke was a police informant. To back this up, they brought forward witnesses, mostly fellow inmates, who claimed Bindon had openly bragged about being a professional hitman while awaiting trial in prison. Bindon's defense was brutally simple and delivered with the performance of his life, self-defense. He took the stand and, for days, held the courtroom in the palm of his hand. He was charming, articulate, and compelling. He told the jury he feared for his life, claiming Darke was a violent man who was trying to blackmail him over lost drug money and had attacked him first. His own serious injuries, which he displayed for the court, made his story of a life-or-death struggle seem devastatingly credible. In a masterful stroke, he also introduced a mysterious, unidentified third man, possibly armed with a machete, who he suggested appeared during the chaotic brawl and might have been the one to deliver the fatal blows. The defense received a huge, unexpected boost from a character witness, the acclaimed actor Bob Hoskins. A friend of Bindon's, Hoskins took the stand and, when asked to describe the hulking, fearsome gangster, famously portrayed him as being like a big, gentle bear, lovely and cuddly. The description sent a wave of incredulous laughter through the tense courtroom, and, many observers believe, helped to soften the jury's image of the intimidating man in the dock. It was a moment of pure theater. In his final summary, the judge, Sir William Mars-Jones, seemed to lean heavily in Bindon's favor, openly and dismissively calling the prosecution's key witnesses a ragbag. After deliberating, the jury came back with its verdict. John Bindon was acquitted of murder and all other charges. He walked out of the Old Bailey a free man. The verdict was stunning. Did Bob Hoskins' cuddly bear comment really help acquit a killer, or was the prosecution's case simply too weak? Hit that share button and ask your friends what they think of this incredible courtroom drama. The aftermath and legacy. Legally, John Bindon was an innocent man. The jury had spoken, but in the court of public opinion and in the world he had fought so hard to conquer, it was a different story. The trial had laid his violent, criminal life bare for all to see. The sensational media coverage, combined with his now infamous reputation, effectively killed his acting career overnight. The same directors who once clamored for his raw authenticity now saw him as too difficult, too toxic, and far too dangerous to hire. The glow of celebrity that had once surrounded him faded, and the high society friends who had once eagerly partied with him now vanished, afraid to be associated with him. His longtime girlfriend, Vicky Hodge, later said he completely lost his sparkle and his zest for life after the trial. It was as if the acquittal had cost him everything. Bindon spiraled into a lonely and bitter isolation, his life consumed by addiction and paranoia. The man who had so deftly navigated the treacherous parallel worlds of film and crime was now a total outcast from both. He became a recluse in his Fulham flat, a ghost haunting his old stomping grounds, a shadow of the larger-than-life character he had once been. The confidence and charisma were gone, replaced by resentment. In 1993, John Bindon died from cancer at the tragically young age of 50. He left behind a complicated and uniquely London legacy. He was a product of his time, a figure who perfectly captured the chaotic, dangerous energy of the 1970s. He was more than just a gangster and more than just an actor. He was the living embodiment of this celebrity gangster, a man whose real life was far more dramatic, violent, and ultimately tragic than any role he ever played on screen. It's a powerful fall from grace. If you found this dive into one of London's most notorious cases fascinating, make sure to hit that subscribe button for more stories where crime and celebrity collide. John Bindon's story is a dark, cautionary tale about the allure of the hard man persona and the deadly price of a life lived permanently on the edge. He was a man who clawed his way out of his working-class roots to find fame and fortune, only to be devoured by the very underworld that gave him his fearsome authenticity. He walked free from the Old Bailey, but in reality, he could never escape his own reputation. He became a prisoner of the violent character he had both played and perfected. The question still hangs in the air today, a whisper in the back alleys of London history, debated in pubs just like the one where it all began. Was John Bindon a victim of circumstance, a man forced to kill to save his own life? Or did Britain's most notorious gangster actor really, truly get away with murder?